You're watching The Attorneys, a paid advertisement brought to you by the law firm of Hollis Wright.
Car crashes, defective products, dangerous drugs, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, The Attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis Wright, are here to serve you. Your tough legal questions answered by our experts with The Attorneys of Hollis Wright.
Hello and welcome. You are watching The Attorneys. I'm Art Franklin. When disaster strikes, whether it is a tornado, a flood, or a fire, your first call may be to your insurance company, but we're going to tell you why you may make another call as well. This really is a must-watch episode of The Attorneys. We're going to get into that in just a minute, but first we want to remind you that you can make a call to The Attorneys right now at 1-844-LAW-TALK. You can reach a live attorney at Hollis Wright. It is a confidential call. All you have to do is make that call now, or you can scan the QR code on the screen and you can reach someone from Hollis Wright at the same time. Now, joining us, John Spade is here. Good to see you, John.
Good to see you, Art. How you doing?
I'm doing great, and we've got a great attorney with us. That's Gary Conchin, a veteran litigator and knows insurance law backwards and forwards.
Absolutely, and thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. Usually I'm sitting over in Gary's seat, so doing a different role today, but so happy to have Gary on the show tonight. Like I said, he is a pillar in the legal community, been doing this a very, very long time, very knowledgeable, and tonight we're going to be talking about a topic of hazard claims and hazard insurance claims. We do a lot of shows about auto claims and construction accidents, that sort of stuff. This is dealing with a claim, a first-party claim where you're making it against your own, usually your homeowner's insurance. So a great topic, something that I'm excited to dive into. Gary, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate having you.
Glad to be.
I want to dive into the topic, but first, introduce yourself a little bit to the viewers, and we can get started on the topic.
Well, I'm Gary Conchin, Huntsville firm, Conchin Cole, Jordan and Sherrod. I've been practicing law 46 years, and I still practice every day. One of these days I'll get it down. And the last 20 years or so, I've enjoyed kind of focusing on consumer rights and homeowners' rights and commercial policies, hazard policies. A hazard insurance policy covers homes, of course, we'll talk about that, but also commercial buildings, buildings that are leased and in operation for different businesses, such as warehouses, manufacturing plants. They catch fire, they have tornado damage, they have water leaks also. So I've really enjoyed handling those kind of claims from the insured's standpoint. And it's like you say, it's a first-party claim against the insurance company, and we never get involved until the insurance company plays their hand, and they come up, they do their estimate, and they provide it to the insured. And many times it's, sometimes it's fair. Most of the times it's a low ball. I'm sure you're shocked to hear that. And so when that happens, and insureds need help, that's what we've undertaken to specialize in that area and enjoy doing it.
Well, that's great, and that's a great lead-in and introduction to the topic tonight. So we kind of talked about generally, hazard claims, kind of what they are, and I know you said y'all kind of get involved in it typically after the insurance is given a lowball offer, or has kind of already done a little bit of work with the insured or the homeowner. But let's kind of back it up a little bit just to let the viewers know, how do you typically go about, filing a hazard claim, be it for storm damage or, a busted pipe, something like that?
Well, a typical homeowner's policy would have coverage for what we call hazards. That's your tornadoes, your wind damage, your water losses. Typically here, when we have a little cold spell, we'll have flooding claims, broken pipes, frozen pipes. Then you have, of course, your serious one where you have fire loss. Those are covered losses under, no question, they're covered losses and other things that go with, other indicia that go with those, under a homeowner's policy or a commercial policy. So immediately, and policies all say as soon as practical, immediately when you can, you notify your insurance carrier. Many people call their agent. Their agent contacts the insurance carrier. You're under a duty to do what you can to, the policy says it has provision in duties of insured, and it'll put all these duties about mitigation, you know, call in as soon as you can. If your roof has to have a tarp on it, you'll get reimbursed for that, but try to mitigate your damages, try to do the best you can to stop additional damages. Now, fire claims you can't do much about.
Put the fire out, I guess.
Put the fire out,
would be one thing,
and
yeah.
that presents other problems. A typical fire department comes out and puts 500,000 gallons of water on a burning residence, and even if that residence is only partially burned, or a commercial building, we just finished a 900 square foot warehouse in Fort Payne, and you know, the fire department, you know, doing their job, they come out and they put all this water on. Now you got mold and mildew issues, and there's no way you can prevent it. It's in the sheetrock, it's in the rafters, it's in the you know, where you plug in things, it gets in the sockets. It's just, mold spores are just rampant, and the colder the weather, the worse it is.
And that's something I want to we can talk about later, is the remediation, kind of the process of all that.
Yeah.
Real quick, just something that came to mind. I know we talked about the burst pipes, and obviously fire being a big hazard that should always be covered under these commercial policies and in your homeowners as well. Is flooding, is that something that's going to be typically under these? Is that a separate type policy? Or?
Flooding within the house. And,
okay.
We've had cases where flooding would come from outside, such as storm sewer and this and that. That's usually not covered under a homeowner's policy. Might be in a commercial building, but anything inside the four walls, pipes burst, leaks, roof leaks, those are so common, and they're covered under the homeowner's policy.
Okay, and especially anything inside going out, but a little bit of a closer call when it's something coming from the outside coming in. What about tree falls on your roof?
Tree falls are covered.
Okay.
If you've damaged the insured item, is the house and all of everything goes with it, separate structures, you know, like sheds and things of that nature. They're always covered under a provision in the policy, other structures provision. But if that house is damaged, now you get into an argument about, did it come from the neighbor's property? Did it come from your property? But your house is insured.
Okay.
And so, you know, you make that claim with your insurance carrier and let them investigate it.
And Gary, we've been talking about the insurer's responsibility. What about the carrier's responsibility?
That's a big deal, big question. Thank you, Art. These policies, I recently read a State Farm policy that they have their own rules and their own procedures, their own guidelines in the companies. And they fight hard to not let you have those guidelines, is my experience. Different carriers. I'm not picking on State Farm, but yeah, I am. So one of their policies says the first thing the adjuster does is you got to tell the insured all of his coverages. You're supposed to explain to the insured that you have coverage for this structure. If it's uninhabitable, you have alternative living expense. You get a motel, or really they really short folks on that, because what you're entitled to under the policy is comparable dwelling. If you got a 3-bedroom house and you got a backyard because you got dogs, comparable would be go find another 3-bedroom house. You've got that alternative living expense. And then you got contents coverage. And that agent should apply. I've got a case right now, I hate to tell you, but it's State Farm again, where this lady, 79 years old, floods her house. A year and a half later, they have never paid a dime of contents coverage. I mean, antique furniture, all of her clothes, everything, her bed, I mean, the sheetrock fell in, the roof fell in on her bed, and all this, the entire house. And here's the adjuster walking through there. His very first entry in the claim file is multiple claims, so-and-so, including substantial contents coverage. And they haven't paid her a dime of contents, and now they're saying, well, she never made a claim. Well, he never told her. This lady had never paid a check, had never written a check. She had never done anything like that. Her husband was just deceased off of COVID. And that's why the adjuster's duty is to come out the first thing off the bat. And here's another very important thing, many times in a house claim, the insured doesn't know where their policy is. If it's a fire, it burned up So that's another reason why the insured should say, hey, I need a copy of my policy. And you tell me all of my coverages, explain it to me, and you should keep notes.
We're going to put a pin in it. Yeah, right there. I know it's a lot to dive into.
Put a pin to it.
We're going to go ahead and take a break here, and we want to remind you that you still have time to contact the lawyer at Hollis, right, by dialing 1-844-LAW-TALK. Do it now. We'll take a break. We'll be back after this.
Here's some good information from our firm to you. Hollis Wright recently launched the Law Talk podcast. With podcasts becoming so popular, this will be a simple way to provide our loyal viewers with more opportunities to access information about important legal topics and to learn more about our firm and how we can help you if the need ever arises. There are many ways to access the Law Talk podcast. You can simply scan the QR code on your screen. Also, episodes are always available on the Hollis Wright YouTube channel, as well as on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you consume your podcasts. Just search up Hollis Wright in the Law Talk podcast. Don't wait, take advantage and listen today. Thanks for watching The Attorneys, and we know you'll enjoy the Law Talk podcast.
The Attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis Wright, are here to serve you.
When we started the show in 2011, my goal was to do what our firm does best. Help people answer questions related to real-world legal issues they have in their lives in a way that's not intimidating to talk with a lawyer. If the issue is important to you, it's equally important to us, and we're ready to talk with you at no cost.
Yeah, oftentimes people are confronting various legal issues in their lives that really run the gamut of a lot of different legal practice areas such as bankruptcy, criminal law, civil law such as personal injury, divorces, domestic relations. And to be able to have a show once a week that covers those practice areas and answers people's questions in those areas, that's really the main objective of the show.
We use the resources of the many lawyers at our law firm to create a plan that has a lasting impact for each person that calls or texts. And we also give back to the community at the same time. We are here to serve you, the viewer, each week on The Attorneys.
Addiction kills hope.
But at Bradford, it all changes here.
Experience the difference
that proven treatment can make.
Find recovery. Find community.
At Bradford.
You're watching The Attorneys, a paid advertisement brought to you by the law firm of Hollis Wright.
You are watching The Attorneys, and we're helping you protect your home before and after disaster strikes, as we're talking with Gary Conchin.
Yeah, Gary, picking up on what we were talking about earlier, we were talking a little bit about, some alternative living expenses. If your house burns down, you got to go and stay in either a home or an apartment for an extended period of time. We talked about how important the contract is. Let's talk about from once you've got the claim kind of going, what are some of the damages that you're able to recover in these types of cases for your clients?
Well, the policies, a typical homeowner policy, all of them really contain this regular, we call it ISO, insurance services forms, and the typical policy says replacement cost coverage, replacement cost value, RCV in their language. That is very, very important versus ACV, actual cost of repairs. Replacement costs, I use a sofa example. Personal experience, I had a sofa that was destroyed in a water loss. And of course, it had to be on the top floor, so it gets the whole house. That sofa was used. It was probably 15 years old. But if you went out and bought that sofa, as replacement cost was $5,000 to replace that wraparound sofa. You have replacement cost coverage. You have replacement costs on a roof. They can't just depreciate the roof out and say, well, it is 20 years old and it's a 30-year roof. Well, what are you going to do? Put a third of the roof back? No. You replace the roof, and that's replacement cost coverage. That's a big area to understand from the start. Let me suggest something to you. Before you get in a loss situation, you can do some things to protect yourself. We used to have a company in Huntsville. They would go around and video everybody's office or their home and then do an inventory. It's now very simple. Before the loss, you take your cell phone, you go around, you video your house, you do a written inventory if you can. But if you've got that proof, we had a case where it was an 8,000 square foot house, burned to the ground. Everything, furniture, everything was pretty much agreed upon, except one thing, a little humor here. This guy was a doctor, and his wife said she had 800 pairs of shoes. 800 pairs of shoes.
Sounds like my wife.
So we nicknamed her Imelda, and an insurance company said, no, we ain't paying for that. Well, her neighbor was so enthralled with, her neighbor going to come over and tell her husband, I got to have a bigger shoe closet, because she had a video. She had a video.
The honey-do list on what she
videoed that closet, and there was 800 pairs of shoes.
Wow.
So we got that video, gave it to the insurance company. That's resolved. So if you go and do something before your loss, now, always keep that video or that inventory somewhere else. You keep a copy in your house, but if your house gets blown away by a tornado, your list is gone, your video's gone. So keep it at the office, keep it somewhere else, give a copy to somewhere else.
Put it in the cloud.
Put it in the cloud. There you go.
Wherever that is.
There you go. Wherever that is. I'm old school. Some of these young lawyers know how to do all that stuff. But that's something that's good advice that somebody gave us years ago, and we continually have problems. On contents claims, people have a really difficult time going back through and making an inventory list. Now, insurance company should help you with that. They don't always, just like the lady that they didn't even do a contents list for her. They packed up all of her stuff and put it in boxes, but didn't do a list. And then those boxes get wet. So doing an inventory, we always recommend go room to room. Sit down, make a list, come back, sit down, make a list, come back, go from room to room. Contents coverage is usually 75% of what your structure value is. So if you've got $400,000 structure, then you're going to have a lot of contents coverage. You're going to have $300,000 worth of contents coverage, and rings and watches and shirts and trousers and all these things. Again, it's replacement costs. They're clothes. You're wearing them. They shouldn't pay you half of what those clothes are worth.
Yeah.
So again, they want to depreciate that. That's a bunch of bull. Don't allow that. Get you a lawyer.
and I love that advice about being proactive on the front end and things that the viewers can do to make sure that, because we spend a lot of money on things and stuff, and we got to make sure it's protected. And at the end of the day, the aggrieved party, the injured party, we've got that burden of proof. And my experience with the insurance companies is they're not going to really do anything to help us, on paying some of these claims. So carrying that burden with some evidence to show what was there, when it was there, to get that stuff replaced is fantastic.
Now that's a really good point, because these insurance carriers now, some of them are worse, and some of them are better, and they'll take the position that you prove it and we'll pay for it. That's not supposed to be the standard.
Right.
The construction placed on insurance policies is supposed to benefit the insured, And the cases hold that if there's a dispute about coverage, this and that, it has to be construed most strongly against who drafted it.
That's right.
The insurance company. So you get the benefit of the doubt on those things, and don't just accept what they say and, well, this is not covered, that's not covered. Chances are it is. That kind of dovetails into what we call bad faith. And you have a cause of action for breach of contract. We're talking about your property, your structure, everything you've lost, your contents, everything. But also where there's irreparable harm and unreasonable delay. You know, the average hazard claim insurance adjusters that we use as experts say those ought to be resolved in 60 to 90 days. Well, if they hadn't fully compensated you in 2 years, a year and a half, that's when we see people come to us. And that's possibly bad faith. That's the opposite of good faith. It's improper conduct. And if a jury hears that kind of evidence, they can return a verdict for punitive damages. In addition to your compensatory damages, which are meant to compensate you for your line item things, you can get punitive damages. There's another area of damages you can get, as you well know, if it's your residence. The rules are different. You get mental anguish.
And I want to pick that up. Yeah, I think we got to go to a break here in a second, but I do want to pick up that mental anguish because it does differ than what we typically talk about on this show. Those damages. So yeah, let's pick that back up, Art.
We'll do that, and also talk about what happens if you're in the middle of a claim and that policy is canceled. You know, so we've got a lot yet still to cover here on the attorneys, but we want to remind you still have time to get in contact with a lawyer at Hollis Wright. Dial 1-844-LAW-TALK for a free confidential call from one of the attorneys at Hollis Wright, or you can scan that QR code on the bottom of your screen. We'll be back after this.
Thank you for watching The Attorneys each Sunday night, where we come to your living room to provide free legal advice in a confidential, off-air setting. Unfortunately, with the number of calls, texts, and emails that come in during the show, we can't always get to everything. But know this, Hollis Wright is open all week long. You call us at 844-LAW-TALK and we're going to answer your question for free. Thank you for watching The Attorneys, and we look forward to seeing you and talking to you soon.
If this place could talk, it wouldn't. It would sing and celebrate all of our stories of addiction recovery, victory, and community. This is Bradford Health Services. It all changes here.
You're watching The Attorneys, a paid advertisement brought to you by the law firm of Hollis Wright.
And welcome back. You are watching The Attorneys, and we're talking about natural disaster claims. As we come back, John, with Gary Conchin.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when we went away for break, we teased a little bit the mental anguish as a recoverable damage, and we've talked about it in past shows about in a motor vehicle context, you got to have a personal injury or some sort of physical symptoms that kind of tie on to those mental anguish. That's not necessarily the case, though, when we're talking about hazard claims. Is that right?
That's right. We have a special rule. If it involves your dwelling and and conduct is bad in the claims process, and you've really suffered. Say you're out of your home, you're living with your sister because they won't pay alternative living expense. They won't pay the fair amount that your contractor says. It'll take $300,000 to rebuild it. They're offering you $100,000, $150,000, those kind of things. Mental anguish is recoverable because it's your dwelling. Unique rule in Alabama, not always in other states, but mental anguish is recoverable. That's a big, big item. And you have to have an attorney to pursue that part. You got breach of contract, and mental anguish fits up under your breach of the insurance contract claim.
Yeah, I would think that there's a lot of mental anguish if you filed a claim and then your contract gets canceled. What happens if that policy is canceled after you filed that claim?
That's one of the most predominant questions. Folks will call us and say they have given us notice of non-renewal, cancellation, for funny terms for cancellation. It does not affect your claim. We tell people, if you had the coverage at the time of the tornado, the time of the fire, the time of the flood, then your coverage is good for that event. They can cancel you. It's harder for you to go get coverage somewhere else with a pending claim, but it will not affect your claim. Your claim is bound as of the time of the loss if your premiums were paid up.
That's good to know. Yep.
So we kind of talked about from kind of start to finish, and I know there's a lot to cover here and a lot to unpack. But these claims can be very difficult, and you're going up against an insurance company that has got a team of lawyers and inspectors and appraisers on their staff, and they're disputing a lot of your claims. Tell us, kind of just generally, why is it important to hire an attorney, and kind of some of the things that y'all can help walk the clients through?
Well, we generally see the insurance company will send out a Joe Blow to do an estimate, sometimes very unqualified estimator or rookie. I've had them before where this is their first estimate, and they just butcher it. And then when you complain, the insured complains it's too low, then they'll send out a supervisor, and it may not get better. Well, you can do that too. The homeowner has a right to hire its own, in effect, an adjuster. We don't call it that in Alabama. There are no public adjusters, but you can hire experts. You hire estimators. There are people that do this. We use groups in North Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama that will go out and estimate your loss. And they'll give you an estimate that you can hand to the insurance company. They have to consider it. The law says they have to consider it. Now, they may not agree with it, and they may not pay it, and you may end up in litigation, but many times they know you've got help, and they can't just run over you.
That's right, yeah, and kind of leveling that playing field a little bit. They're doing their kind of due diligence, if you will, and they're going through the claim. It's important for you as the homeowner or the property owner in a commercial standpoint to be able to have your own, not only your own seat at the table, but also be advised and have avenues to argue back some things and positions that they're taking. That's why it's so important to call an attorney. And Gary, thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're mighty well.
This evening. I appreciate it. I really do.
Thank you. Good to see you. And thank you, John, as well. Also want to thank you for watching The Attorneys. This is where the information that we give you really makes sense. So also follow us on all social media channels, on X, on Instagram, on Facebook, and YouTube as well. Make sure you also put it on your calendar to join us again next week, same place, same time for The Attorneys.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by Hollis Wright.